Hi everyone, this is block number 7, July, for our block of the month challenge. If you'd like to participate, you can join my Facebook group, Stitch It with Cricut. There's a link in the description under this video where you can find all the info. So I've cut out all my pieces with the Design Space file. I've chosen to use 3 colors. You can also do this block with only 2 colors, but you definitely want your lightest color to be your 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares. I let the maker draw my diagonal sew lines. So we're going to start out. Your first step is to take one of the large rectangles, whatever colors you're using, and one of the 3.5 inch squares. You're going to place the square good sides together, and you want to make sure that you line up perfectly along the edges. You don't want the white part overlapping. You want it to line up perfectly with your rectangle, and then you're going to sew one seam straight along the diagonal line. You want your line to point to the middle and the outside, not the opposite direction. So to the middle and the outside, so one seam right along. The next thing you're going to do when you finish that is to take your ruler, line it up, and you're going to cut for a 1/4 inch seam right along. You're going to press that open. So I have another one here that I've already done. You press it open, and that's how it's going to look. You're going to take another square, again with your diagonal line, pointing up towards the center and down to the bottom corner. Make sure that they're perfectly aligned. They're going to overlap. You want that overlap, and you're going to sew right along that diagonal line again. You're going to end up with this, and again you want to trim off the extra fabric. Give yourself a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you're going to press this open. And this is what you end up with. You want this overlap. This overlap is going to be important when you're putting your pieces together to form the block. This is how you end up. So I'm going to finish up these squares. We'll get those ready. We have these ready. And we'll assemble our block. Before we do that, there's something I wanted to show you. So all the pieces that I trimmed off, I have all these little triangles that some would consider wasted fabric. But what you can do when you sew that diagonal line is you can sew a second line about 1/2 inch away. Then you would split right down the middle. When you cut this apart, I didn't measure the 1/2 inch. I could have measured it a lot more accurately, but I wanted to show you this. If you want to do that, you'll end up with about 16 little half square triangles. If you want to take the time to do that instead of just cutting off the corners. So that's something you can do, and it will still work the same way for your block, but you'll have these excess little half square triangles left over in the end. So we'll just put that aside. Okay, so I'm going to get these finished, and I'll be back so that we can assemble our block. Okay, so once you've got all your rectangles prepared, we're ready to assemble our block. So you may have chosen to use all the same fabric for your dark colors, but I decided to do 2 different colors. That's totally up to you, however you want to use your fabric. So we're going to lay these out. 2, facing up with your triangle facing up. Beside that, you're going to put 2 with your triangles pointing towards the right. Under that, you're going to put 2 with your triangles facing down. And then we're going to do 2 with the points, triangles facing towards the left. So you have up, right, down, left. And we're going to start assembling by sewing our triangles together. You want to be sure when you sew them together, place them well. Make sure they're lined up on the edges. You want to make sure that when you sew them together, you don't sew into this triangle. You want to stay just above it. So it might be a little less than 1/4 inch, but make sure that you stay above that triangle. You don't want to be taking off part of the point. When you flip it back open, you want to make sure that you've kept the point. So you want your seam to go along, but always above that triangle. So I'm going to get those done. I'll be back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so we have our 4 squares assembled. So now we're going to create our 2 rows. We're going to do that by placing the good sides together, and sewing our seam. I'll get that done and I'll be back again. Okay, we've got our rows ready. So all we're going to do now is attach our top to our bottom. Make sure that you've nested your seams, one going to the left, one going to the right. It's only the center seam that you have to nest. Make sure you've nested it well so you don't get a bump in the middle. Pin it if you need to keep it in place. And we're going to sew right along that center seam to complete our block. And there we go. Your flying geese block. It's block number 7 for our challenge. I hope you're going to enjoy making this quilt block. Thank you for watching.